Hi, I'm the Moonlit Page Turner, and welcome to Podcast Reads, the series where we read books by our favorite podcasters. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the rewatch. It has become extremely popular to have a podcast where you go back to your favorite show and revisit it episode by episode. Now, my favorite rewatch podcasts are the ones that are from the cast of the either television show or reality television show. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about two in particular. We're going to talk about the Girls Next Level podcast, and then we're going to get to some Office BFFs. In 2005, on the E! Network, The Girls Next Door premiered, which gave viewers a glimpse into the life of Playboy Hugh Hefner, and in particular into the lives of his three girlfriends. We have Holly Madison, Bridget Marcourt, and Kendra Wilkinson. Now, Holly has come out and done a rewatch YouTube series, but in 2023, she called her friend Bridget to start the podcast Girls Next Level, in which they go back to rewatch their lives in the Playboy Mansion. They give a lot of behind the scenes information as well as interview guests from the show. Holly and Kendra have both written books. Bridget, girl, we're waiting on yours. For the purpose of this, I did not read Kendra's book. She is not part of the podcast, although the girls have said that she is welcome to come on. So I did read both of Holly's. We have Down the Rabbit Hole, Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales of a Former Playboy Bunny, that came out in 2015. And then the following year, we have The Vegas Diaries, Romance Rolling the Dice, and The Road to Reinvention. So if you are interested in Holly's life during her Playboy years, I would highly recommend reading Down the Rabbit Hole. In 2015, when it came out, it was a big deal because up until then, Holly had not spoken publicly about the things that she had gone through at the Playboy Mansion. Also, Down the Rabbit Hole at the end is where you get information about her relationship with Chris Angel. The Vegas Diaries, if you are someone who was a fan of Holly's second series, Holly's World, you're going to be very disappointed because there's very little information about that show in this book. This book is more about her time on Dancing with the Stars, and then when she moves to Vegas, figuring out what she wants to do with life and the types of guys that she wants to date. Holly is very smart, and so she has been very kind of quick not to name names. She even in the Vegas Diaries, it said that she has combined some of the guys that she has dated so that you can't figure out who it is. Even the man that she did marry and have a couple kids with, he is in the book, although he is not actually named. So if you are looking for some detail and some dirt, Down the Rabbit Hole. If you are kind of looking at Holly's introspective, though, on kind of life after the Playboy Mansion, then that would be the Vegas Diaries. So both are fairly short. They follow the same kind of motif in which she has a story that she uses to help tell her own story. So Down the Rabbit Hole has Alice in Wonderland kind of inspiration, and the Vegas Diaries has the Wizard of Oz. So each chapter starts with a quote from the respective book. So Down the Rabbit Hole, each chapter will start with an Alice in Wonderland quote, and the Vegas Diaries, each one will start with a Wizard of Oz quote. I have to say, when I read Down the Rabbit Hole, I was on an airplane and I devoured it in about 4 hours. I think my mouth was open for most of it. And I definitely said, damn, a couple of times. Vegas Diaries, not as sensationalized. You really just see Holly struggle a little bit more with trying to figure out who she is and who she wants to be. And so, again, if you're looking for kind of the dirt and the sensationalized of Holly's life, I would recommend reading Down the Rabbit Hole over the Vegas Diaries. This one does talk about her time on Dancing with the Stars, although it's very short at the beginning of the chapter. So I was also disappointed that Holly's World wasn't mentioned more in this book because of how Down the Rabbit Hole was inspired by her life at Playboy. So you barely see some of the people like Angel and Josh are like hardly mentioned in this book. So both were interesting. I think both were well written. Again, when it comes to which one I kind of enjoyed reading more, I definitely devoured, partly because I had to. I was stuck on an airplane, but down the rabbit hole than the Vegas Diaries. But if you are a fan of Holly's, I would recommend that you read both of them. The same year that The Girls Next Door premiered, which is 2005, we get the American version of The Office, which aired from 2005 to 2013, having a total of 9 seasons. And then in 2019, we get the Office Ladies podcast, in which Jenna Fisher, who plays Pam, and Angela Kinsey, who played Angela, they come together to do their Rewatch podcast. In 2022, we get their book, which is The Office BFFs Tales of the Office from Two Best Friends. And if you are a big Office fan and are going to read this book, I would suggest listening to the audio version, which is what I did. Because you get some special guests. So we have Creed shows up, as well as Rainn Wilson and Ellie Kemper's on there too. Now, the book, which they got largely from the podcast, is not as behind the scenes as kind of their podcast is. I haven't listened a lot to their podcast, but from what I saw about the book and the podcast as well, is that some of it is the same stories. So if you're looking for more behind the scenes stuff, I would suggest listening to the podcast than reading the book. There are some behind the scenes aspects in the book, but the book itself is really about the friendship between Jenna and Angela and how that friendship started, grew, changed, and even was tested as they both were growing their own families and spent time apart. We also see the fact that Jenna is always looking for a snack. And so if you're in the room and see Jenna, she will tell you where the food is, as well as their adventures and award shows. So there was a lot of funny things. They do read the chapters together, so it is more like a banter between the two of them. And then they each take time to tell some of their own personal stories. So it was really cute and sweet about female friendship. Although, if you are looking for more behind the scenes stuff on The Office, again, I would recommend listening to their podcast.